Welcome to the cockpit. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot today. I am oh so excited. We finally have Jets football back. It's a little bit of like a diet brand football because we're not seeing many of the starters. We're only seeing guys that are going to compete for some starting roles that may not otherwise be listed as starters. So maybe Mekhi Becton. Not maybe. We will definitely be seeing Mekhi Becton. But I want to talk a little bit about who to watch, what I'm keeping an eye on, and I want to get your thoughts on everything going on around the Jets Hall of Fame game. We got our on-site correspondent, Mr. Matt O'Leary, Asman, and Boy Green. All three of them are out in Canton. I'll be live with Green Bean later on tonight for the game itself, if you guys want to tune in and hang out with us while we watch that. And then we'll get some insight from Matt and the boys out there and see how they're doing. So very, very excited to kind of get into all of this. I'm going to give you a little bit about my thoughts. Let's do a little roll call action real quick. I see Tim. Welcome to the fam, Ellie. Go Jets. Phil, happy birthday, Zach Wilson. It's time you came of age tonight. Knock 'em dead, kid. I hope so. Ellie says, new Jets fan here. So this is who Tim was saying, welcome. New Jets fan here, loving the team and think that Zach has lots of potential to back Aaron. Jets, 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 Jets. Jets, Jets, Jets. I love it. I love it. I love it. Always glad to have new people coming in. I'm excited. I think Zach's going to be pretty fun to watch. Let the countdown begin. Love it. Love it. Thank you. I love doing the countdown. I like seeing a little plane fly around. It reminded me of the the DVD thing that used to bounce around the screen, when you're a kid or, maybe not a kid, but just watching DVDs in general, and you're waiting for it to like bounce into the corner. That's where the inception of the little plane flying around. I could sit there and watch the little DVD thing bounce. All right. I see Mutt Viles is in here. What's up, dude? Dominique. Also calling it Diet Coke. I love it. Tyler says the LaCroix of football tonight, if you will. All right. So let's go through this little bit by little bit, and I'll give you kind of my thoughts. Let's start with the quarterback. Zach Wilson's going to be starting tonight. I'm hoping to get like a quarter and a half, almost 2 quarters from him. I want to see as much of Zach Wilson as I possibly can for a few different reasons. One, I'm fascinated to see where this kid's head's at. The last time we saw him start was the Jaguars game. That was the post-game interview that had all the, do you think you let your defense down? He says no. How does he respond to the fan base, to his teammates, to everything like that on the field for the first time? I'm fascinated to see, because I really think as bad as that moment was and like the replays and everything, I don't know if he necessarily like believed that he was wasn't letting his defense down. I think he was just trying to get out from the camera and wanted to be away. So that's kind of where my head's at. How has he grown with Aaron Rodgers in front of him? Does he look like a different quarterback? This new offense with Nathaniel Hackett, has he started to really absorb everything that's going on in the system? How does he look? Does he still have the happy feet? Does he look more comfortable? And look, I'll be honest, I don't want to see Zach at all this year, but I'm still fascinated to see where this could kind of go and what could happen. Because what strikes me as interesting is Aaron Rodgers was asked, hey, the next time you're going to be in Canton, or this is the last time you're going to be in Canton, probably until you're inducted into the Hall of Fame in 5 years. He's like, well, I'm planning to play a few more years, so 5 years after that, so probably in 9 years from now. Which, if I'm doing math, that's 3 to 4 years of playing for the New York Jets or playing football in general. But I would assume he'd want to stay here. So, is there some potential possibility where Zach Wilson shows out, but maybe the coaches want to commit longer term to Rodgers, and then we decide to flip Zach in the offseason? Or is there a situation where we now see Zach starting to grow and he's willing to sit behind Rodgers for these next few years until he's done and wants to hang it up, and then the Jets can move on to Zach Wilson? That would be really cool, but that would involve us trying to figure out a contract after the season, because I don't think anyone expects us to exercise Zach's 5th-year option, which is going to be like $20-some-odd million. You're not paying a backup quarterback, because you're going to have Rodgers, $20-some-odd million. So that's not going to happen. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he looks, because during training camp, he's actually looked pretty good, but he doesn't have the threat of being hit. And I think that's the biggest question mark, is how does he react when there's pressure dialed up? And there's a few times where we were seeing like beautifully thrown balls, but would it have been a sack? Would he have been able to set his feet the right way if he knows he could get hit? Not having the threat of being whacked by a defensive end or a linebacker definitely changes your mentality. Does he get the happy feet? Can he still show accuracy? His throw to Brownlee in practice the other day, incredible. That gets me to the weapons. Who are we looking at? I have to take a look and see who's actually not playing, but I would imagine like Lazard, Davis, and Garrett Wilson, those three probably are not playing. Maybe Mecole Hardman. I don't actually know, but I'm really interested to see Brownlee in particular. That's like, of all our weapons on the wide receiver front, Brownlee's the one that is most exciting to me because he's everything I wanted Denzel Mims to be. And like, can he show out actually in game? Because like I said, it's a lot different when you're going against another team's players. I shouldn't say another team's players, but you're going up against players that should be of your same-ish caliber right now. And can he earn wide receiver 6? That's going to be a special teams type role. It's something that if, hey, the Jets only have, for next year, we only have Garrett Wilson and Lazard under contract going into next year. Mecole Hardman's a free agent, Cobb's a free agent, and Corey Davis is a free agent. So if this kid who's an undrafted free agent can show out enough where we feel comfortable by the end of the season that he might be able to be wide receiver 3 or wide receiver whatever on the depth chart, that would be really cool. And this is going to be our first shot to see that kind of happen. He looked like he was using his Spidey skills. Catching that ball the other day. Wild. Absolutely wild. Now, from a tight end perspective, I don't expect to see Conklin or Uzoma, but I am very much looking forward to seeing what we can get out of both Ruckert and Kuntz. We've seen the metrics and everything on Kuntz, and we drafted him in like the last round or whatever. Why did he fall that far? Where's he at? Because I think a lot of fans probably expect him to get the practice squad. I don't know if we're thinking he's going to make the roster just yet. Kenny Yeboah provides some really strong special teams depth, so I could see them, erring on the side if they're carrying 4 tight ends, going with Yeboah. But Ruckert, we didn't get to see much of him last year. And we're hoping he's going to be a long-term solution at the tight end position. And he is someone that I'm very, very excited to see. One, obviously, Jets fan. We got to meet his dad on Sunday of Jets camp this past week with O'Leary, Greenbean, and Richie. We literally walk into training camp, and Bill is like standing right there. We're like, oh, we know that guy. Like, oh, man, hey, how you doing? I think Ruckert and the fiery nature he has that we've seen in practice, I want to see things get a little chippy. I want to see this dude start like laying some good blocks. I want to see some nice passes from Zach Wilson. The tight end group this year under Nathaniel Hackett, I think, has a lot of potential to do some really impressive stuff. And if there's any way that Ruckert could start stealing some reps from from either Uzomah or Conklin, I think that bodes well for his growth at the position. Then we're talking a little running backs. The running back side of things, I think all 3 backs, not named Breece Hall, so Michael Carter, Izzy, and Bam Knight are going to get a ton of work, specifically on the later half, like maybe after Zaxxon. I mean, they're obviously going to do a little bit of mixing it up between pass and run, but I think once you start seeing Boyle and Strevler, you're going to see a little bit more likelihood that they're going to run the ball, I would think, later in the game. And I want to see just who stands out. If Bam Knight looks legit, then I think it makes Dalvin Cook less of a need. I don't think the Jets are looking to sign Cook until at least after the second preseason game because they want to see what they have in-house. And if you have if you have Carter, if you have Bam Knight, if you have Izzy, who kind of sets themselves apart? Is one guy very clearly the number 2? Bam Knight we saw for like a 2 or 3 game sample size last year, and he was really, really impressive, although it was against maybe not so great defenses, and then it kind of like fell off. But that was also when Zach Wilson wasn't doing too well. The offensive line was really beat to shit. So how does Bam Knight respond? Michael Carter, this is, you had a little bit of injury issue last year. The offensive line clearly did not provide any help. you were a very impressive rookie to the point where a lot of fans did not want a running back high in last year's draft. I know myself, I was not thinking Breece Hall in the second round. I was thinking a running back in the third, fourth, fifth round, somewhere in there to pair with Carter as a 1-2 punch. And last year was such a disappointment in terms of what my expectations were for Carter. I think seeing him bounce back would really mean a lot. And then Izzy, we just haven't seen him in a game. Obviously the young rookie, I think he's a home run hitter. He's a lock to make the team, but I think the Bam Carter, sort of side of things is the interesting part, because one of those guys could be on the outside looking in if the Jets decide to make a move for Dalvin Cook. Kind of because I do think Nick Baldwin has a really good chance of making this roster, and if he's going to be running back 4, how does that impact the rest of the running back room? So that's something to keep an eye on. All our weapons across the board. How do they interact? How do these guys understand our new offense with Nathaniel Hackett? What does the offense even look like under Nathaniel Hackett? I think that's also interesting to see what, we've been watching LaFleur the last 2 years. How does Hack kind of run his game? Now, offensive line-wise, this is the biggest question mark for me coming into this game. And who do we see? Who shows out? Mekhi Becton is figured to get 20 to 25 snaps, I think is what I saw posted somewhere. He's the biggest piece of this puzzle for me. If he can earn left tackle 1 or even right tackle 1, I don't care. I want him to be a starter on this team, and I want him to prove it and earn it. And through training camp so far, I don't know if we've seen him run with the ones yet, which does lead to a little bit of thought process where we've heard, Mekhi Becton might be traded. If he's dead set on being a left tackle and he's not going to start at left tackle, or maybe he's not even going to start at right tackle, is there any, incentive for the Jets to maybe move him for someone else? Would you have to include extra players or picks to facilitate some type of trade? I've been on the side of I don't want to trade Mekhi Becton because I don't think the value is there in a trade. I think even if you were to get like a 4th round pick or a 3rd round pick for Mekhi Becton, his upside potential is so much more valuable than whatever that pick's ultimately going to bring us, I think. Now, if there's a situation where you can flip Mekhi and maybe a mid-round pick or something, and you can get a bona fide stud offensive lineman that's maybe a little bit older, maybe like a Bakhtiari or something along those lines, maybe that's something that you consider. But in that case, you still want Becton to perform as well as possible. He's 50 pounds lighter. I think he's going to be fun to watch in the run game specifically. How does he handle some of these speed rushers? We've seen him struggle a little bit against Carl Lawson and McDonald and Huff in practice. I think seeing how he moves, seeing if he's winded is another aspect I want to keep an eye on. And then from like another offensive line perspective, like I'm looking at the whole thing in general, but the 2 guys I'm really keeping an eye on, it's Becton and then Tippmann. Tippmann's the one that I want to see some center snaps from. I really was hoping we'd get him to be the starter this year at some point. I understand veteran quarterback in Rodgers, you don't want to have a rookie center snapping him the ball, but Wes hasn't looked so good. McGovern could start. I think it's more likely than not that he's going to start for the season, but Tippmann is someone that I would like to see really make some impressive plays. It doesn't have to be, wow, look, he threw this dude, but just don't make any mistakes. Just kind of business as usual. The more you don't hear, that's a weird way to say that. When you don't hear an offensive lineman's name, that means they're doing a good job. When you hear 5-yard penalty, false start, how many pre-snap penalties are there going to be? We've seen people jumping off sides a little bit. Is that Rodgers drawing people off sides? Is it, something with the offense? Is it some sort of timing thing? How do these guys work together as one with the pre-snap penalties, and can you kind of avoid those? Because how many times in the past have we seen, oh, okay, Jets are 1st and 15 now, or, we had this stupid holding penalty, now we're 2nd and 17, and now all of a sudden your 4 downs that you have to try and get down the field are kind of shot because the percentage chance of you making a 3rd and long is dramatically lower than, say, a 3rd and 2. So just keep the ball moving forward. Try to limit the amount of negative plays, both from Zach Wilson backpedaling backwards, doing his pirouettes, and just the push up front from the offensive lineman. Very fascinated to see where that all goes. On the defensive side of things, I'm fascinated to see who plays in the secondary, because I really feel like Tony Adams is a lock to be our free safety, but is he going to play some snaps because they're trying to determine between Amos and him? And I don't know where to gauge the line of who is deemed safe in their starting spot and who is fighting for a starting spot. Because this fighting for starting spot is kind of where we're looking here. And there's been a lot of hype around Tony Adams. We cut Pinnock last year for Tony Adams. And I think that took a lot of fans by surprise. Now, having him here and seeing him perform with the rest of the safeties, it's clear he might be our best safety, definitely our best free safety. As far as the corners go, Bryce Hall, Brandon Eccles, how do these guys look? I would expect not to see Sauce or Reed. Those guys are firmly supplanted as our top two corners. How do they perform? Do we have the depth we believe we have behind Sauce and Reed? Remember, Eccles and Hall were our starting cornerbacks prior to last year. It's kind of nice to have that type of depth. In terms of the linebacking core, I don't think we'll see C.J. Mosley or Quincy Williams. Both those guys figure to be supplanted as full-time starters. I would like to see a lot out of Jamian Sherwood, both in the role where he would be replacing Quan Alexander, and if they wind up putting him as like the Mike in the defense. Is he going to be calling plays? We kind of saw him in replacement of C.J. Mosley last year in a few occasions. Can he step up in that same capacity, and can he lead the defense? Because ideally for me, while he's filling in for the Quan role this year, I would love for him to be able to fill in for CJ eventually whenever that time comes, when CJ is no longer on the team. So having that replacement in-house would really mean a lot. Defensive line-wise, we've got a bunch of really good defensive linemen. Now, I don't expect to see Quinnen or even Carl Lawson or any of those guys, but I am looking forward to seeing Will McDonald. I'm excited to see Huff. Has Huff added anything to his arsenal, or is he purely just the speed rusher on the edge? I'd like to see him get some more reps and kind of round out his repertoire of, I guess, defensive moves, both in the run game and the pass game. Does he become a valuable trade chip? He's a piece of our puzzle that could be moved for something that we may need. Like, let's say there's a situation where Becton is so upset that he needs to be off the team, and it just works best for both sides to kind of reset. Maybe it's him and like Huff that get traded to a team in place for a tackle, and then that sort of makes way for Will McDonald to kind of eat up some of those Huff pass rush snaps. We have so many good edge rushers. There's going to be some guys that we lose. And does it make more sense to trade someone and possibly get an asset, or maybe just allow them to walk? Now, you're not going to cut Huff. I'm not saying that. But if you were to, when you're rich at that position, what happens? Defensive tackle, I think, is interesting for me. You got Solomon Thomas, Smart. How do those guys perform behind Quinnen? Do we see Clemens? I would like to see Clemens a lot. I want to see him throwing dudes around. Like, I want to feel really good. I already feel highly optimistic on Michael Clemens, but if I can see him on the interior of that defensive line and he's throwing dudes and just dominating, that's going to make me feel even better, because we saw a little bit of that in his limited snaps last season. It's fascinating stuff. As far as the special teams go, I want to see Zerline. I want to see you make all your kicks. You've been doing a great job in practice so far. It feels like we finally have confidence in our kicker, and I just want to see more of that. Punt-wise, Morstead, well, hopefully we don't have to punt at all. I don't want to see you on the field. You should only be holding the ball for Zerline. I do not want to see Morstead. But when I do see you, if you do wind up on the field, can you give us the hang time that we were so missing last year with Braden Mann? Braden Mann had a booming leg, but he couldn't quite, he would always outkick our coverage. Morstead was able to provide that help 2 years ago. Heck, we lost 2 games because of our punt returning or punt coverage. Do we need to bring in a Matt Ariaza or someone along those lines? I don't think so. Morstead, I think we guaranteed like $1.1 million to. He's looked good in camp. There doesn't seem to be much of a weakness on this team aside from the offensive line. The shuffling of the offensive line and who the best 5 are, because Tomlinson, he's getting paid. So he's going to be the left guard. AVT locked in at right guard. I think we expect McGovern at center based on the comments about Tippmann and where his development might be at this particular point in time. And, the veteran status with Rodgers, may want a veteran center who was our starter last year, who played next to Tomlinson and AVT. So it might be beneficial for us to have that cohesion in the front line. But the tackles, now that's going to get interesting. And then from like a coaching standpoint, I want to see Robert Saleh, look, if there's a play that looks like it needs to be challenged, let's do a little bit of, quick thinking. I want to see the right decisions as things are happening, because this isn't just an evaluation of the players, I'm trying to get a read on the entire coaching staff. How do we respond to the moves that the Browns make? How does it all work? Ooh, Landon says he's excited for Carter Warren. So am I. Is he playing right now? He was coming off an injury from last year, right? Like, I'm pretty sure he's playing. I actually have not kept an eye on him at all in training camp, and I really should. Bad Jets YouTuber. John says, if our O-line has its act together, then any of our backs can run. Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. We were on offensive tackle 6 last year. Now, that being said, Dwayne Brown was brought in because all our other tackles went down, and, maybe it's not quite offensive tackle 6 the way we are always thinking about it that way. I don't know. We're not going to see Brown. I want to see the offensive line hold. The offensive line is my biggest, scary spot for us. Edward Stewart says, they get cooked, the running game would be wild. We saw this with Le'Veon Bell, though. Once the offensive line goes to shit and he doesn't have the top offensive line in Pittsburgh, now you don't know if you're actually getting that wow running back that you saw. So is Dalvin Cook, who played behind an incredible offensive line in Minnesota, would he do the same thing here? Or do our running backs sort of fill the same role? Just Win Jet says Devontae Adams or Mike Evans is where money should go. I disagree. I think at the trade deadline, if we sustain an injury to the wide receiver core, then I'd consider that. But right now, I would rather spend money on the offensive line than a wide receiver. Daniel says McDonald's strip sack tonight. Put money on it. I'd throw $1 on it. Why not? Sean says Zach needs reps. This preseason play will show us where Zach is mentally. Completely agree. NJ Rocket, talking about Mekhi Becton, says, Guy hasn't played live in 2 years. He needs to ramp up. I think keeping him with the twos is part of the process. Yeah, I hope that's kind of that's what we've seen from Saleh, and saying oh, he's on a pitch count. We're working him back slowly. We're trying to get his stamina up or whatever it is. I would like to think dropping the 50 pounds was enough to maybe have more stamina than we have seen from him. But I do want to see him play regardless of where it is. I would like to see him starting with the twos, which I guess is what he will do, unless they're trying to play Mitchell and Turner as the lead tackles. EF, whatever happened to the old opening Ryan? It always hyped me up. So it had Mike White in it for a little bit. I have a few different intros. The other one had Zach Wilson. So my buddy's making me one that has Rodgers and stuff in it. So hopefully I got a new one coming up soon before the season. Jason says, we'll be watching you guys this year. I don't see Rodgers taking you guys to the Super Bowl. I thought the Jets should have went all in on Lamar, a lot younger, big upside, but we shall see. Go Browns. I am really hoping Elijah Moore sucks. I'm glad you're hanging out over here. I think Elijah Moore is going to ball out for you guys, by the way. I think he's going to have a really, really good season. Jet fans were kind of irritated that we wound up trading him because we got Rodgers, or we knew we were getting Rodgers. And seeing him get moved to you guys for what we would deem a kind of a loss sort of sucks. Now, I really don't want you to do well I've got a vendetta against Watson, unfortunately. But as far as Lamar Rodgers, there's so much risk with Lamar, and you're not getting rid of Zach Wilson right now. And I think if you had gotten Lamar, it completely kiboshes the number 2 overall pick that you spent. At least if you have Rodgers. If you have Rodgers and you don't win a Super Bowl, but Zach ends up working out, or we have built a culture around this team because of Rodgers, and even if it's the next quarterback that comes in and he works out, this trade's a success. So I'm 100% in on Rodgers and not the Lamar stuff. I guess that's probably easier said than done because it's already been completed, but that's sort of my mindset when I'm considering all that stuff. Let's see. I saw one of our members put something in here. Where'd it go? UK Jets fan. Celebrates 4 months of membership. Thank you, dude. Hey, Ryan. Day off tomorrow. 1 a.m. start here. Woof. That is early. But I'm glad you have the day off tomorrow. So you got to watch the game. Myself and Green Bean will be streaming it over on the Talkin' Jets channel. I don't know if I'm hopping in right away or if I'm going to hop in after the initial starters come out. I want to do my every play video, like my every throw, every run. Let me know in the chat what players specifically you want to see done. So if I'm going to do those clips of highlights, how I should allocate my time. What makes the most sense. Ricky says his former trainer is a Finns fan asshole, John. Don't believe everything you read. Ricky is talking about the trainer who posted Jet fans would be upset or would have their hearts broken if they heard what Dalvin Cook said, which is a completely fucking moronic move for that trainer. I mean, you got your client actively looking for the biggest contract he can get, and he's kneecapping, potentially the Jets or Cook by saying the Jets aren't really in play. I don't know how much of that I really believe. I think he knows everything's hyper analyzed right now, and seeing that type of post, maybe he's just trying to get Jet fans fired up. Either way, I'm okay whether we get Cook or don't get Cook. I think the Jets need to be in on Cook the same way the Jets were in on Tyreek Hill for the bare minimum of at least trying to increase the price for a division rival. So whether we get him or not, I could care less. We'll see. John, who was the handsome fan that yelled at Sean Payton's a bum at camp? Oh, that was some guy in a nice old pizza head. There's only like half the fans in the stands for that point. I should have waited till there was more people. That's all right. Phil says, honestly, we have the record for quarterbacks that can't throw a screen pass. Remember Hackenberg and a few others. Zach, hit a screen. I will be happy. We've been seeing him hit those short passes in practice. It's just a matter of what happens with live pass rush. Chike says, I'm expecting Becton to start at one of the tackle spots. This week was his best week. Salah raves about him and himself, and he himself said he's willing to play wherever. Well, that makes me feel better. I thought Becton was calling himself a left tackle, and I didn't see that he's willing to go anywhere other than that. So as long as he's willing to play the right-hand side, I think that's ultimately where he ends up. I like that he's getting left tackle reps right now, and I think they kind of have a handshake agreement with Dwayne Brown saying, hey, take your time. Don't rush back. You've been in the league for 150 years, so you're good for week 1. You don't need training camp. And that's kind of what Rodgers has said in the past too. The vets don't need training camp. This is for the young guys. This is for guys trying to install a new offense. The vets don't necessarily need it. So can Becton claim one of those spots? We shall see. Yaquan says, this season reminds me of when Brady went to Tampa. That 1 year and change everything, we're going to be great. This reminds me of the Tom Brady year going to Tampa. This reminds me of the Matthew Stafford year going to the Rams. This reminds me of the Peyton Manning year going to Denver. And all 3 of those really good quarterbacks wound up winning a Super Bowl. I threw $100 down on it. I think, I don't know. I hope it works out. It'd be great. Dylan, do you think Jamie Sherwood could start this year since Quan left? Yes, I think that is the plan. I think that's ultimately who winds up starting. I just want to see him show out. We saw him, he was a tackling machine when he was in place for CJ Mosley last year. So I would like to see that happen again. Mum says, I wanted to pick Brownlee or Izzy as most excited to watch, but it wasn't an option. Oh, I didn't even think to put those on there. Who did I put? I put Zach, Becton, Tittman, McDonald. Yeah, that was probably a bad poll. Sorry about that. Zach's winning that one. So we can start a new poll. Let's see what we got. Let's do, we'll say Brownlee. We'll say Izzy. I'll throw Sherwood on there. And then, I don't know who else. Well, let's go Clemens. Why not? Show our boy some love. I think Brownlee's probably going to win this poll question, though. So poll question's up if you guys want to click around on that. Rusty Spooner says, Leonard Fournette or Kareem Hunt, I'm cool with. Don't need Cook and don't want him if he's playing games. Yeah, I'm fine with any of those veteran running backs. I would even throw in Ezekiel Elliott into that list because I'm not looking for someone like to supplant Breece Hall. I think Cook provides the most home run explosion, but I don't view him as the be all end all for that position. And if it's like, hey, Dalvin Cook for 7 or Zeke Hunt or Fournette for like 1 or 2 million, maybe it makes more sense to go with the cheaper guy and use that, $5 to $6 million that you would have saved somewhere else on the team. Phil Adams. Ooh, yes. I've been meaning to show this. Hold on. So Phil, the boss that he is, sent me a flag of all his favorite Jet content creators. Look at that. Right? Pretty cool. Thank you, Phil and Diane. You guys are awesome. That was very fun to see. Even wrote me a nice little note. Thank you, guys. I do like the flag. Rob says, looking forward to Clemens unleashing the monster. Let's effing go. Rumor has it he wears brass knuckles under his gloves. He has a sheath for his Lucille bat from Walking Dead. Yaquan said he put $200 down on Jets winning the Super Bowl. What were your odds when you put it down? I put mine down in March before we started talking to Rodgers. I got plus 2,500. Daddy wants a hot tub. Sean says Dwayne Brown could still come back slow because of lack of play time. Yeah, I think so. I think it's less of a concern. Maybe they activate him for one of the final games, but it's such a, I don't know. I'd rather roll the dice on him being a little rusty than risk getting our starting left tackle injured. Although I guess you want to get him some reps regardless. I don't know. RW says Kuntz, Warren, and Abaconda. Abenik. I always just call him Izzy. I'm going to jack up that name forever. Rob says Brownlee and Izzy going to light up the preseason. I think those are probably going to be the main guys people are kind of keeping an eye on. UK Jets fan says, I can't find it in me to give up on Zach, a bit like Greenbean and Mims. I know he was garbage, but so was the injury-riddled offensive line. Come on, Zach. I'm in that same boat. I am not giving up on Zach. I've been saying this for a while, and I've kind of gotten a little bit of shit for it, but I love Zach Wilson as quarterback too. And as much as it scares people for like, oh, if Rodgers goes down, do you trust Zach to win a game or two? I do. I think he can win a game or two. I rely mostly on the rest of the team around him, and I think we're going to rely on the running game in those sorts of situations. But the ceiling for Zach is just so astronomically high. There's no one that I think the Jets could draft like for where we perceive them to be. The Jets are going to be picking in like the 20s. this year, hopefully 32. But if you're picking that late in the draft, are you able to find someone with the attributes that Zach Wilson has? And I think trying to iron out his issues, whether it's between his ears or his feet or whatever is going on, I really want Zach to flourish. And I'm hoping eventually we've seen enough from him that he's willing to take a little bit of an incentive-laden deal to kind of sit behind Rodgers a little bit more, because I think him being ingrained in our offense is only going to help him. So I want to see Zach play well. I'm definitely a Zach fan. It just, I don't want to see him play in the regular season at all. I don't want to have to see him. Mr. McMoney says, if Becton struggles against the twos, do we trade him? I would hope he doesn't struggle against the twos. I think if he struggles against the twos, I don't know if we're going to be able to trade him. I think other teams are probably going to be keeping an eye on Becton as well. Teams that might be looking for offensive linemen. Not to mention there's going to be a lot of players that are cut at the end of this training camp portion. At the end of training camp. So is a team willing to give up an asset for Becton when he doesn't look good against the twos, when they might be able to sign someone else off the proverbial scrap heap that other teams have kind of given up on? I don't know. The Becton thing fascinates me. I think his attitude and how he meshes with the coaching staff is my biggest concern, because he hasn't really played for this coaching staff. He's practiced under this coaching staff, but he literally played like half a game against Carolina 2 years ago, and that's all he's done. So I don't know how much they're endeared to him at this particular point. Edward says, I'll take that 1,000-yard rusher. Will definitely help them out. Talking about Dalvin Cook. Is that Legend said, we better get someone after Rodgers gave up $35 million or he could get upset. I think we will make a move, but I think we'll do it in a strategic way. Like, I think we're going to wait on Cook until we see our three running backs and how they perform to determine if we need to bring in another back for maybe a higher priced amount of money. I think Rodgers is smart enough to understand that running back is a young man's game. He's not a dumb player by any stretch of the imagination, but if you had to go with a veteran, he might prefer Dalvin Cook. And if the Jets deem, hey, Carter and Bam, Bam was smoke and mirrors for the little game stretch we saw last year. Carter does seem to be falling off. Well, now we do need a running back in here, and we do get Dalvin Cook. I'm hoping to see the opposite. I'm hoping we don't have to feel the need to go out and get Dalvin Cook because our guys in-house are that much better. That's the hope, I think. Even though I would like to see Cook. Like, Cook and Brees together would be friggin' amazing. Rusty Spooner says, Rodgers calls Clemens Debo, and he says he's his best friend. I would also call Clemens my best friend because I don't want him beating the snot out of me in my sleep. Clemens is a scary mother trucker. See, Ricky's helping me out with the pronunciation. Ryan, his name is easy. Just add ab before anaconda. Ab anaconda. That makes it a lot easier. See? This is what I have you guys for. Doing Grace. Dropping in with Super Chat. Thank you. Says, would you rather pull the trigger on a depth piece like Cook now or wait till the deadline to fill a need? I think this is how we should frame our question, because I think Dylan has it perfectly right here. I would prefer to wait and fill a need at the deadline because someone got hurt in season. Right now, I don't know how much more of an upgrade Cook is over Izzy, Bam, and Carter. We'll find that out over these next few weeks. I would imagine it's to Cook's benefit to kind of drag this thing out a little bit. Hard Knocks is going to love the drama surrounding Dalvin Cook. I think there's some financial benefit for the Jets waiting a little bit longer because then you're, even if he goes to Miami, you're at least making them pay a little bit more. You get to see what you have in your three running backs. So I would prefer to wait and make a trade or fill a need closer to the deadline than sign Cook now. Yaquan says, I love Zach as the number 2 also. We can get 4 to 5 wins out of him if, God forbid, Rodgers goes down. I would hope that Rodgers is going to play every single game this season like he has the last few, but in the event, he has to miss a game or two, I'm fine with Zach as quarterback. we should be able to win with the rest of the talent on this team, and you should hope that Zach has taken a step forward. If you have to get in another quarterback in place of Zach, the Zach experiment's done. Rusty Spooner says, I just call Izzy Abracadabra. Can't spell or pronounce his name, but he's fast like a magic man in Talladega Nights. Shake and bake. UK says, I wouldn't let Zach meet my mom, though. Guy's a looker. There's one thing he's good at. Definitely knows how to get a date. Edward said, Washington cut a pro guard just in case if they have... Washington cut a pro guard just in case if they have to move Tucker around. Yeah, could Vera Tucker get kicked out to a tackle spot if we're not feeling comfortable with any of our other options? I think the Jets view him as a guard. I think he probably views himself as a guard. I think he's probably in line to make as much money as a tackle even at the guard position because of his versatility. But does it make more sense to move him to tackle and then maybe put Tippmann in as guard or McGovern in as guard and Tippmann in as center? Who knows? I don't really want to add a guard right now. RW saying, 255 watching, only 47 likes. You got to be kidding me. Come on, support the man. If you guys are enjoying what you're seeing, I don't want you to hit the like button just because I'm asking. If you like what you're seeing, if you enjoy the channel, if you want to see some of the every throw highlights or the every run highlights that I do for each game, those get posted as soon as I can. I try to upload them really, really quick. I'm going to try and do it mainly for the bulk of the guys that are starting that we may have more questions about. So probably the first half of the game is what I'll wind up doing. But if you like that sort of stuff, you want to see more from the channel, hit the like button. Actually does go a long way. Steph says, I need to see Sherwood. He, out of all people on the poll, is most likely to have a significant role. Yeah, I think he's going to play a lot this year. I think he will be the replacement for Quan. So seeing him play well makes me feel good. Phil says, if Cook is coming, it'll be tonight before the game. I don't think so. A Jake Asman fan. You know, it's funny. I've never seen a Jets Talk 24/7 fan. I guess I'm not not in the same stratosphere as Mr. Asman. How we Jets fans gonna be when we go 13-4? Are we gonna go wild and out? I can't wait. If the Jets go 13-4, it's gonna be a magical season. I think the best season I've seen from the Jets. Did we get 12 wins with Vinny? I think it was 12 wins. Was probably the best I saw. Because we had 11 wins with Sanchez, right? I would love to get to 13. Spooner says, JD might be saving $35 million for a lineman later. Never know what he might be planning. Yeah, I do think there's going to be some options. I think the $35 million does sort of seem to line up with like the Bakhtiari amount of money, and he just so happens to play a position that we could really use. But I don't know if that. I think that only happens if like Dwayne Brown goes down, and then maybe Bakhtiari in the offseason could potentially be coming over. JR saying, dope room, my guy. Thank you. Jack Talks Jets, are you streaming the Hall of Fame game? So we're not showing the game on air because you're not allowed to do that. But Green Bean and myself will be streaming over on the Talking Jets channel. So if you guys want to tune into that, we'll be discussing the game. I got to talk with Green Bean and figure out what time I should be hopping on. I had told him after Shea goes to bed. I think he's going live starting at 7, and then I'll pop in for a bit pre-game, and then I might jump into like my highlight side of things and then join probably around halftime or so. But I'll touch base with him. Phil says, sorry, Ryan, I was shaving. LOL, just hit the like. Thank you, Phil. Don't cut yourself while you're shaving. You can always take time. Anderson says, yeah, it was 12-4 with Vinny. Kelvin, is Dalton Reiser still available on the market? I think he would be perfect, especially sticking it to the Broncos. I have no idea. Let's see. Looks like he's still available. Working out with the Vikings a day ago, I think, is what it seems like. I don't know enough about him at all. So I'd have to do a little more research if we were to try and bring him in. Lewis says, gonna be up at 1 a.m. to watch the Jets tonight. Can't wait to see it. Football is back. It's about time. You and UK Jet fan. Gonna be up at 1. I was supposed to be in Ireland this week, so I should be watching the game at like 1 o'clock. I wound up, we got Baby 2 coming in T-minus 6 days. Could not go. I had a dream that Sherwood got hurt, just praying it was my anxiety and not some ancient Caribbean foresight. That was a weird way to pronounce that. Don't speak that evil. Bathing in yogurt. Ryan, do players still wear jock straps or go for the full brief? Thoughts? I have no idea. That has childhood Ryan excited, by the way. Ryan, I have no idea. Do they wear jock straps? Probably. Who knows? I'm not really looking at their junk when I'm diagnosing games. Maybe I'll have to keep a closer eye on the package. Greg says the party starts tonight. That's right. This is just the pregame for the season. Tim asks, is Zach really part of this team's future? If Rodgers plays 3+ years, how can we keep both at a reasonable price? I don't think Zach Wilson is going to command any type of like higher than backup price on the open market. I mean, unless he signs like some sort of crazy and Satan-laden deal and he prefers that over staying behind Rodgers, that's entirely possible. I do think Zach's best opportunity is to kind of sit and play the Aaron Rodgers role, just like Rodgers had to sit behind Favre. It just sucks because there's a 2-year gap that he's already played, so now his contract winds up being up. So let's say we hold on to him for these next 2 years. I would rather hold on for him for 2 years and then franchise tag him if he's proven behind the scenes, or I guess transition tag, or work out some type of... No, I don't want to do either of those tags. But, let's say Rodgers eventually leaves after 2 years. Maybe he signs a Band-Aid deal, kind of like Jordan Love. I don't know. Look, I don't know if Zach's going to be a part of our future. Ideally, Rodgers plays as long as he wants. And then we deal with the quarterback situation at some point in the future. I don't care if it's Zach. I don't care if it's someone else. I like Zach, and I would like to see his skill set develop and do well. But it's something that I'm probably not going to be super hyper-focused on, aside from just being like, oh, okay, he's checking a box. He's doing all right. Steph says, I only want to see Zach playing at the end of the season when we have locked up the number 1 seed. Yeah. That sounds nice. I like that too. Sign me up. And Jay Rocket says, if Sherwood is a decent starter, that's another late rounder that JD and Sal developed from a day 3 pick. Talk about like overturning stones. You're talking JFM, Berrios was picked off the waiver wire at one point. Bryce Huff, Hall was a later round pick. As far as like depth goes, Eccles, depth piece. You're looking at Bam Knight, Brownlee, like a lot of potential like assets. Quincy Williams, lots of guys that have kind of been plucked off the scrap heap. And Douglas does a really good job of that. I think people focus really closely on his drafts singularly, and I think that is a mistake. While, he just had the best draft we've ever had, in the 2022 draft. I understand that. But when you look at his 2020 draft, his 2021 draft, and you're like, Zach Wilson may be a bust. Mekhi Becton might be a bust. Elijah Moore's traded. We traded up for a guard, whatever. Like, you can have some maybe criticisms of Joe's selections, but I think the value is, does he see talent? Does he understand talent? Like Zach Wilson to me looks talented. It's just, can he put it together? Elijah Moore is talented. He's just a little bit of a head case. Denzel Mims had a high RAS score. Thought he was going to be a little bit better than he was. He definitely, not a little bit. I thought he was going to be a lot better than he when it ended up being. But it looks like Douglas has the eye for talent. So him being able to find this value for different players is huge. Now I want to see him hit on like players at key positions. Like we've spent high money on left tackle. We've spent high money on cornerback. We've spent high assets on edge rushers. Can you round out this roster in some premium positions with some of these lower end guys? That would be kind of nice. He was a part of the team that got the left tackle for the Eagles in the 6th round. I believe it was 6th round. Does that sound right? 6th or 7th round? And now he's their franchise left tackle. I want him to do something like that for us. Edward Stewart. What's up, Ed? He says, is the safety position solid enough? I think with the emergence of Tony Adams, I am far less concerned about the safety position. I really wish Clark had stayed healthy because I would feel more confident with the linebacker position if I felt like we could move one of our safeties into that Quan Sherwood type role. Now I would say, like, down Clark, I'm a little more concerned about linebacker than I am about the secondary itself. Ricky says, can't believe all the Dalvin Cook hate based on hearsay and posts where people were trolling. Court of public opinion is in session. Judge, less educated, presiding apparently. I've never heard less educated. That's pretty funny. I like that. I do think there's a lot of passion around Dalvin Cook, primarily because he's a big name and it drives traffic and everything. And like literally every tweet and every comment that I see over the last like week and a half, 2 weeks has been all about Dalvin Cook. But it is the season for misinformation and trying to get more money. And maybe the Jets are trying to do Cook a solid by raising the running back price for a division rival, because then he gets, a plus. And then, by and large, the Jets would look kind of good across the league for running backs if they're kind of trying to help them out. But I don't know. I like Dalvin Cook. I think I want to see him be passionate about wanting to be here. And you saw some of the media tour that he went on, but I don't know if he's just pumping his stock to just try and get to Miami for whatever amount he can get to. I'm still leery on if this is going to happen. NYC Superfan says, who can you see on the defensive line standing out this preseason for a premier spot on the in-season rotation? Michael Clemens. And I would think McDonald and Huff are probably going to be sort of interchangeable. I think neither one of them is going to play more than like 25% of the snaps. They'll be in high pass rush situations more than anything. I hope we get to see Jermaine Johnson tonight. I don't know if he's playing or not, but I think he has the most explosive possibilities coming into camp on the defensive side of the ball. And he has really looked impressive in training camp so far. He's kind of the forgotten first-round pick from last year, and I would have taken him at 4 had Sauce Gardner gone at 3. Like, I wanted Sauce at 4, but I was, like, dead set on getting Jermaine Johnson at 10. I was like, okay, if you could guarantee me Sauce at 4 and, like, Jermaine's going to make it to 10, I would have taken Jermaine at 10. I'm glad we got, Garrett at 10, obviously. But us trading back up to get Jermaine Johnson, the Jets clearly tried for 15, 16 picks to try and get up to get Jermaine Johnson. I think they're hyped on him, and I think he's going to be really impressive. So I would say Jermaine Johnson and I would say Michael Clemens are the two I'm most looking forward to watching. And hopefully we see a lot from them. UK says, I can't remember what I used to do between the season before I found 24/7. Thank you. I'm just glad you hang out in here. It's nice talking to everyone. I feel like I'm so, with the kid now and the wife and full-time job and everything. And, it's just sort of like tough to make time to get out and talk to Jet fans. So here it's like, great. We have this little community of fans from all over the world. And I feel like we can commiserate or get excited together. And that's been the coolest part of this. Chris says, hey, Ryan. Long time no see, buddy. Hi. Good to see you in here. Ricky wants to see Huff, Bam, Brownlee, all undrafted free agents. Yeah. Yeah. Talk about JD, right? Yeah, and Tony Adams, too, I believe. Finding stuff off the scrap heap. Joe Douglas is. Tragic Artist says, from Oregon. So I joined late. I'm looking forward to Zaire Barnes, Sherwood, to see how linebacker depth is. Only defensive position I'm somewhat worried about. Yeah, Tragic, I'm in the same boat. Linebacker for me is the one area on the defense that I'm concerned about. I'm not like devastated by it, I guess. Offensive line is definitely my biggest concern overall. But the ability to stop screen passes that we saw from Quan last year, if we don't have that capability, it's really going to make me irritated because I like I don't want to see 3rd and 15 and now all of a sudden we get a running back scampering for 20 yards because we can't cover a running back again. Maybe Whitehead comes up for those types of responsibilities. Ricky wants to see a bloodbath. He says, I want to see Huff tonight versus other teams' 3rd and 4th stringers. It'll be a massacre. Just throw dudes off the field. Music Man says, Rodgers is 1-1 against Mahomes. Both one-score games. I'm looking forward to seeing them bang out in the AFC Championship game. Go Jets. Rodgers, I like our defense against any other team's offense. That includes the Chiefs. I think our defense is that good. And I think it gets even better when you have a quarterback that can score. If Aaron Rodgers plays to at least average quarterback play, like top 16 quarterback play, I think the Jets will be able to hang with the Chiefs. If we get top 10 or top 5 caliber Aaron Rodgers, the Jets will beat the Chiefs. I really believe that. But we got to prove it on the field first. A lot of hope coming into this season. The return of Rusty Spooner. JJ looks like a man possessed this year. Think he's a number guy too. He's happy mentally being back to number 11. I do think he looks better in the number 11. That number always felt like it suited him. I wish they would change the font on our jerseys more than anything. Because the number 11 and the number 1 for Sauce, for that matter, looks like a stick of butter. I think is what Green Bean. I don't know if it was Green Bean or Matt that called it that, but that's definitely what it looks like. I would like to see a little bit of the throwback number 1. But yeah, I like that he changed it. Edward says 24/7 was my first Jets channel getting involved in. Oh, thanks, Ed. Yeah, I'd love to see who you guys maybe found first. And then how you kind of hung around. It's nice having you here. Ed's been a fan of the channel for a long time. Jigga, I was on your channel yesterday. Thank you for having me on. It feels like Christmas. It really does. Greg says, I think Izzy is going to shine bright. Fingers crossed. Phil, thank you for the super chat. Says, Ryan, I've been worried about the offensive line all along. Is there anyone out there we could trade for? How's Broderick doing? Go Jets, no cuts. Bronze Series 9 Pro, amazing. I think there's got to be some good offensive linemen out there. I think Bakhtiari is the one tackle that I've been saying since March to keep an eye on. He did restructure to drop his salary cap hit to allow for some flexibility. They paid him a little bit more money this year. He's got a $40 million cap hit next season. I think the Packers are going to try and look at their backup tackle situation, and if their backup tackle is good enough or they'll trust him enough, then maybe there's a chance you get him in a trade. Now, if I were the Packers, I would hold on to Bakhtiari, at least for this season, because there's no reason to, if you're confident Bakhtiari's healthy, there's no reason to put your quarterback that you want to see the majority of or the most out of with an unproven guy behind him. But as far as the money and how things go, he's the one guy that I can kind of look at and say, he might get traded. At the very least, I think he's probably getting cut next year. I don't think there's any way the Packers carry him at a $40 million cap hit next season. So the Jets might wait till the offseason when Brown retires, assuming Brown retires, or maybe the Jets don't bring back Brown, and then maybe they don't have anything with Mekhi Becton, and then you bring in Bakhtiari. I think that's a little more likely. I think we might be seeing what our offensive line is right now with the players we have on the roster. Doesn't make me feel good. And I don't know how Broderick's doing. I have not kept up on him. Amato says, good morning, Mr. Good morning, Mr. Ryan. I like that. Looking forward to Mekhi Becton to bury people. Just throw them down. By the way, I was turning heads in my office today. Came in with my new number 8 Aaron Rodgers jersey instead of a suit. I love that. If I have to work leading into a weekend, I might have to do like Jersey Friday or something like that. At the golf course, we used to have some fun. We used to do, the staff could wear football jerseys and the bartenders would wear like ref uniforms. They haven't done it in a long time because they're like, hey, we really need like uniforms and whatnot. But man, that would be kind of cool to do that as well. I love repping the jerseys. It makes you feel good. It's nice. Whenever I see someone with a Jets hat on now, it's like, oh, that guy's got he's excited. There's a pride in being a Jet fan. Now, it is a little trickier now because you're getting a lot of bandwagon fans, which I'm totally on board with bandwagon fans. Heck, channel could use some help with the bandwagon fans. All about it. But there is a little side of me that's like, were you here through the Adam Gase years? Did you have to put up with what we put up with? Did you have to watch Braden Mann make that tackle and lose us Trevor Lawrence? Or are you just hopping on now that Aaron Rodgers is here and we look good? I'm going to gatekeep. Aaron says, random question. For anyone that's been to training camp, if I don't have a ticket, can I still get to the merch booth looking for some new throwback gear? No, you cannot. They scan your ticket prior to getting into like the fan section where the shop is. So you do need a ticket to go to the to get into that portion of camp. Phil Adams, Green Bean, then Ryan, then Matt. Started with the best. There we go. Love it. Love our Talking Jets panel. Those are my favorite nights. I look forward to Tuesday. Ricky says, I found Ian first. Those of us that have been on YouTube for a while definitely found Ian first. I mean, that's where I started my channel. He inspired me. I was like, I want to talk some football. Ian's a good dude. Jake says, I think we trade Becton if he has a good preseason. Such an injury risk. If they don't trust him to do the right thing and they think they can extract some value for him, I would like to trade him for an asset that would help us as opposed to a draft pick. Unless you can flip that draft pick for an asset that would help you. Edward says, I believe my second was Jets Media with Richie. I'll be at Jets Camp with Richie this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Looking forward to it. The Swim Maker says, Ryan, not drinking. I've been good. I've only had a few beers. I'm going to try and only do beers on like Monday, Tuesday. That's different. Got to get a little rowdy. We'll see. Isaac Clemens said he's going to show the Jets they got a monster tonight, and I cannot wait. Dude's like, what, 15 or 20 pounds heavier, too? Throw dudes around. Oreo says, hey, Ryan, long time. Anyways, how do you feel about the Jets getting a lot of attention? I see on social media people hating on the Jets because the NFL is shoving sauce in the Jets down everyone's throat. I could totally sympathize with other fans like that, but they can go suck on a bunch of eggs because the Jets have been irrelevant for so friggin' long and we've been made fun of. It feels good. Feels really good to have teams or channels talking about us and what we could potentially do. Now, if we collapse, it's going to be epically miserable as well. So that's like the concern of it. But hopefully everything goes well. And look, we are the talk of the town. We are a very interesting team. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, likely Comeback Player of the Year in Breece Hall. You have Aaron Rodgers here. Like all the smoke surrounding the Jets this season. It's just time to ignite it. I'm not upset. I could play villain. I want to play villain. I want to get to that point. I want people to be upset that they have to play the Jets. Ice Force says, I see a ton of frustrated Green Bay fans hop on the bandwagon. They think their GM is stupid and wasted Rodgers' prime years. It feels nice to be the team to go after all these years. I'm totally on board with the Packers fans. It's not necessarily in this capacity, but I like that the Packers fans are hopping over because it's very similar to like, Patriot fans hopping over for Tom. I definitely gave them crap for that for sure. Like, you're a fair weather fan. But with Rodgers fans coming over, I think there was enough animosity in Green Bay and like feeling like they wasted an asset at that point in time for Jordan Love while Rodgers was still like in his prime. And then having him come to the opposite division, or opposite conference, you could still, root for the Packers. And then, like, I'm sure in their mind, they're like, if we could see Jets versus Packers, that's not, well, maybe they're not hoping for that because they want our first round pick to be like higher. But it's nice to see, Packers fans coming over. There's no like issue from Jets fans or anything like that. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of those bandwagoner fans. And I'm here for it. NYC Superfan, what surprising info will we see on the first episode of Hard Knocks? There'll be something about Dalvin Cook in there. Or like some type of comment by Rodgers imagine if they signed Cook already and it actually gets released on Hard Knocks and we were seeing running back Dalvin Cook for the first time in a Jets uniform, like not in a Jets uniform, but like on the sideline. No way that could be kept a secret. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see on Hard Knocks. Fatigue says Jets X Factor when Robbie was making videos was my first YouTube channel. Jets X Factor is really good. I was talking to Blewett the other day. We're going to link up at some point. Blewett, Nania, and Sabo, those guys know their shit. They're really, really good. I follow all three of them on Twitter. I'm part of their Jets X Factor. Like mailing list and everything. They do a really, really good job. And Joe's one of the more impressive guys that I've ever seen break down film. And he's just a fun dude to drink a beer with. I could talk and sit with Joe for like hours on end. Anthony says, the NFL wants the Jets to be good. It's good for the sport. It brings out the haters, which increases engagement in the sport. I've always said that, but then why the hell are the Jets so bad for the last few years? You would have thought they would have been like, the Jets got to get Trevor Lawrence because they want them to be good and, for all the reasons you just stated. But yes, this year I think they do I think they do want to see the Jets do well. Obviously, lots of primetime games. It's clear they want them to do well. Boba Jet comes in and says, I started with Buffalo Jet fan. Then Jets Talk 24/7, then Jake and Jets Media. I'm excited to see Brownlee get 2 touchdowns tonight and want to see how Becton performs. Oh, that's very cool. I like that. Buffalo Jet fan's really good. He's funny as shit. He's really good on Twitter. And then Jake and Richie are awesome. Brownlee getting 2 touchdowns? I hope so. I hope we get to see a lot of them. I'm not sure what I heard that he hurt his shoulder. I just don't know like how serious that was. Hopefully we see a good amount of reps from him tonight. Daniel Murphy says, Matt O'Leary was my first Green Heart. Yes. When I saw O'Leary, I think I subscribed to O'Leary. He was around 400 subscribers at the time. And I remember reaching out to him being like, hey, dude, you have a buttery smooth voice. I would love to collaborate with you. I think you know your stuff. And then that's where the whole friendship began. And then Green Bean and I had been talking behind the scenes. Not really, we didn't know who one another was. We knew each other through our usernames on Jet Nation and accidentally wound up, he posted one of my videos and I was like, oh, this is why I thought that. And he's like, wait, are you? It's like, oh yeah, that's me. It's like, oh, no way. We're going back and forth. And now the whole crew's together. Anthony says, Play Like a Jet does a good job. Having Luke do breakdowns on the YouTube channel is great content. Luke does a really good job with the breakdowns. I like Luke a lot. His accent's sexy as hell, too. I love that accent. All right. I'm going to hop off here. give you a little bit of recap of what I'm kind of thinking about. So very much looking forward to Zach, looking forward to Becton, looking forward to Brownlee, looking forward to Tittman, looking forward to the running backs. I think the offensive side of the ball, I have a few more questions about than I do the defensive side. Like, obviously, I want to see Sherwood, I want to see Tony Adams, but I think I'm going to be a little more hyper-focused on the offensive side of the ball tonight. Boys and girls, if you want to hang out and watch the game alongside Green Bean and I, we will be over on the Talking Jets panel, Talking Jets channel, watching that. I believe Green Bean's going on at 7. I got to put Shay down to sleep, so I'll probably be on a little bit, 7:30-ish or so, and then I might do my every throw video or every offensive snap video to try and get that out for like halftime, because I would expect we won't see starters much longer than that. But I'll try to get that out for you guys. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out if you enjoyed what you had heard here today, or if you just want to be excited for the Jets finally playing some football again. Boys and girls, football's back. This is Jets Talk signing off. Jets!